Hey, it's Richard with Matthews Wealth Management. We are going to be covering something I've tried 3 times now to do with microphone issues and fingers crossed, but usdebtclock.org. This is an amazing site. It is not 100% real-time accurate. What it takes is 2 different points, and then it runs like a clock averaging that out, and then they adjust and just, know your source, right? But I use this quite frequently to gather information. So when we talked about the debt ceiling and why it was stupid to continue raising it to infinity, I was using the numbers of like how much an average household would earn versus pay versus put on the credit card, right? And so that kind of came from this. But I want to go through this very quickly. Yeah, right, I don't do that. But just to kind of cover some big points here so that if you're ever arguing or debating or researching or interested, you can look at this and understand kind of what's happening. So over here, we got the U.S. national debt, right? And sorry if I'm not looking at the camera and this at the same time, but we're at $32.7 trillion, which for the average citizen is about 100 grand. That's how much you're in debt for 2 other countries, okay? This is interesting. I love how we do this. Debt per citizen versus debt per taxpayer. So the people who actually pay for the social welfare of others, you're on the hook for $250,000 to help other countries who own our debt. And the Fed owns our debt too, but that's a whole different thing. I won't go down that rabbit hole. So now we look at the actual spending, right? So you have U.S. federal spending, the official, $6.3 trillion per year is how much it takes to pull together everybody's resources to spend on helping people, which is good. I like that stuff. Or fraud, waste, and corruption. I don't like that. And there's probably a huge percentage of that is pointless, that nobody would vote for. But hey, they can spend it however they want. Okay, so then you get to the actual, I don't really care about that. That's not a big deal. This was the debt to GDP ratio in 1960, 52%, 34 and 80. We started getting things back together after that stagflation period. And then in 2000, right before the tech bubble burst, 56%, and now we're at 120% of our total GDP. So that's going to be, a year and a few months of working to pay everything off, and nobody gets to eat, nobody gets energy. Like, that's just insane, right? Like, other countries don't survive with that, but we do because of our military, I guess. Because of the dollar, because of the debt we have on other countries, whatever. So let's talk about the taxes that we pay, because this is what's owed. But tax revenue, $4.6 trillion. Well, wait, we're spending 6.3, but we're only bringing in 4.6. Well, that's annoying. So revenue per citizen, I love how they say revenue, because that's government revenue, which is, at gunpoint, they take your money or they put you in jail. That's just your options, right? Free will in America. So $13,750. Oh, really? What happened there? Come back. It came back. Okay, I gotta move around this mouse. So $13,750 per citizen. We're not talking taxpayer, per citizen. Okay, and I like that. I like that they don't do it by the taxpayer, because think about it. Pay your fair share. Reply with a comment and say me if you're paying at least your fair share. I doubt it, right? Like people who pay 0 or just get free money from other people. This is the fair share, right? If we all pulled our weight, guess what? We would not support 4.6, much less 6.3, would we? We'd probably have a little bit more input into how our money's collected and spent if we paid our fair share, right? So people who are paying 100 grand a year in taxes, I think that's already fair. Like that's just supposed to illustrate how much spending we're doing that is, it can't be right, because then you can drop down here to median income, $35,972. Well, wait a minute. Gosh, that's 1/3 of everybody's income for the median. Something's wrong with that relationship and that relationship. Go figure it out. It's political. All right, so then we get into the state tax stuff. U.S. GDP, $27.5 trillion, right? So that's how much. I don't like the GDP number. I don't think it's useful or accurate. It's there. It's a number. it's something that can be looked at to gauge changes, but that's the problem is things change behind the scenes on how we're doing this. So let's get into our budget items, because that was a big discussion point of, if we don't raise the debt ceiling, we're not going to pay Social Security and we're going to have to cut veterans and all that stuff, right? So let's look at that. 1.6 trillion in Medicare, Medicaid. Was that really something we couldn't continue? No, because we're bringing in 4.6. Like, this is pretty easy math here. Could we continue 1.3 trillion of Social Security? Yeah, that's not much at all of the 4.6. And then we take 800 billion of defense and war. Wow, you know, that fits in our tax revenue. That fits in the budget. Maybe we should just like say those are necessary, or entitlement. No, that's a bad word. Let's not say entitlements, but those are necessary. Oh wait, what's this? 658 billion interest on the debt. Uh-oh. That's a problem. Maybe we should stop that. But no, because we're not going to, we'll threaten your Social Security, let's raise how much we're paying interest on debt by issuing more debt at higher interest rates right now. Good Lord. You voted for these people. They are not that bright, or they just love power. I think that's it. All right, so U.S. population, 335 million. Of that, less than half are taxpayers. Cool. U.S. workforce, 163, so that's like a little less than half. Official unemployed, I love this one, 5.967 million. Actual unemployed, 9.7. Yeah, that actually makes some sense. I mean, you read these unemployment numbers, oh, it's a tight labor market, and wages are going up too fast. Yeah, right. I know way too many people who still aren't back to work, and that's the number. If we actually reported that as unemployment, the Fed would be doing things very differently, but I don't know. Maybe this one just looks nicer. Let's see what else in here. Not in labor force. And this is actually the driver between this, because when people say, unemployment's historical lows or whatever, well, they just factor that all of these people who have not had a job in the last 4 weeks must not want a job. So therefore, they're not unemployed. They're just not in the labor force. But wait, does that mean that they're disabled? Nope. Does that mean that that they're retired? Nope. What does it mean? It means they gave up. Well, that's a strong economy, isn't it? Yeah, right. It's not. That's 100 million people. Now, there's overlap before I get the fact checks, because you should fact check. That's a good thing. Understand what not in labor force is, because it's that denominator, or it's that lack of number counted in the denominator, that allows them to put together 5.9 million unemployed, and that's historic lows, when really it's double that, right? So anyway, it's easy to mess with numbers, right? That's the whole thing about statistics. Private sector jobs, there it is, okay. 130 million normal people. And then you've got union workers, they're not normal, that's 15 million. And 23 million government employees. I mean, if I'm spending money on something, I expect a value in return, and therefore it would be considered voluntary, right? And if I'm giving money to employ government employees, am I getting a value? What about labor unions? Yeah, we just shut down that yellow trucking company because of labor unions who said, well, they just didn't pay properly. It was a pricing structure. Well, if they're so greedy, why are they out of business? That seems like a bad business decision, but whatever. All right, so we get manufacturing jobs, all this good stuff, right? And I'm going to try to cut it off soon. You can get into all sorts of cool stuff at the bottom. Hey, does that look familiar, guys? That's US M2 money supply now. Hey, they're wrong, because I just did the M2 and balance sheet thing. And so, like I said, they take a point, another point, and then they just linearly do the numbers, the little ticker. So it's not live real time, but they do adjust it, so it is useful. U.S. Treasury dollars, M2 money supply. Look at this. Oh, dude, this is crazy. So you got million, billion, trillion. Currency and credit derivatives now. So this is the money, right? 20 trillion. $630 trillion of stuff that exists on paper. And it's moving around, right? Like this is a house of cards, guys. There's not really all this behind it, right? We don't even have a GDP, but 27 trillion. Like, how many years before you can cover your currency and credit derivatives? Wow, that's just insane. So U.S. debt held by foreign countries, million, billion, trillion, 7.6 of the total, where was it, 20 trillion. It's somewhere in here. Where am I? 20 trillion. So roughly a third, a little more than a third of all of our debt is held internationally. So much of it's at the Fed. So we'll see how that turns out. U.S. trade deficit. I don't care about trade deficits, guys. That's stupid, really. Like tariffs and trade deficits, that's nothing. But I mean, it's a talking point, I suppose. Look at the people in poverty, 43 million. That's more than 10% of the population. 1 in 10 people is in poverty. Now, define poverty in the United States, right? Go on a missions trip if you want to see poverty. Foreclosures, that's annoying. Even though rates are going up, who was on an adjustable rate when it was at 3%? Nobody. So these are actual like job loss foreclosures, which is worse. Without insurance, okay, I guess that's just health insurance or whatever. Medicare enrollees, you have 63 million recipients, 85 million, very interesting. Check this stat out. U.S. millionaires, 23 million millionaires, 42 million food stamp recipients. So we have double people on food stamps than we have millionaires. 57 million retirees, 8.6 million disabled. And then you've got the unfunded liabilities, right? Like, I don't think that's useful, the way that they talk about that. And maybe I should do something on entitlement reform, what that looks like. But honestly, it's a Ponzi scheme, right? Like, it takes incoming dollars to go out as accounts payables, right? Like these liabilities. Of course, they're unfunded because they're driven by a tax revenue, right? That's what FICA is all about. Anyway, Social Security liability. This is just taking who's going to live and average lifespan on average, whatever. And so there's that number. Same with Medicare. Okay, whatever. So then you got other U.S. unfunded. So that's 193 trillion. That's still nothing compared to the 630. That's insane to me. But 193 trillion of unfunded liabilities. If you want to look at it that way, that means that we're all on the hook, not just for that $250,000 as a taxpayer per year, but another 575,000 for a lifetime just to cover the entitlements, right? The stuff that we told people we would give them. I think the solution is in lowering these unfunded liabilities by letting people opt out and then using other tax revenue to cover the liability or the payment that needs to be done. But yeah, good luck having an actual discussion with a politician who seeks to solve a problem, because that would be unheard of. That would be something that you just don't see. So check this out. Use it. It's got cool stuff about gold supply and more derivatives and paper currencies and all that stuff to look at. But I just think this thing's awesome. I think whoever did this, put this together, good job. Keep it up. Wow, there's my cue. So we're going to end on that, but go visit. It's usdebtclock.org and put something in the comments. Let me know what you think.